The rain had been pouring for 3 days straight when I found her huddled beneath the overpass. Just another shadow among shadows, except for those eyes, iridescent violet that seemed to glow even in the darkness. I was on my way home from a late shift at the hospital, my scrubs still spattered with someone else's blood, when I spotted her. Something made me stop. Maybe it was those eyes, or maybe it was the way she trembled, not from cold, but from something that looked like fear. "Hey," I called out, keeping my distance. "You okay?" She flinched, pressing herself further against the concrete. Her clothes, if you could call them that, were tattered, made of some material I didn't recognize. Lightweight, almost shimmering despite being soaked through. "I'm not going to hurt you," I said, setting down my backpack and pulling out my lunch container. Half a sandwich remained inside. "Take it." I slid it toward her across the wet ground. She stared at it, then at me, those strange eyes narrowing with suspicion. Then hunger won out. She snatched the container and devoured the sandwich in 3 bites. That's how it started. Me, Alex Chen, 32-year-old nurse, single, living in a 1-bedroom apartment with a cat named Garbage, suddenly taking in a woman who wasn't from around here. And by not from around here, I mean not from this planet. That I didn't know that part yet, of course. "You can crash on my couch tonight," I said, after watching her polish off 3 more sandwiches I'd bought from the 24-hour convenience store nearby. "Just for tonight until the storm passes." She looked at me for a long moment before nodding once. I didn't know if she understood my words, but she followed me home, keeping exactly 5 steps behind me the entire way. I named her Violet, after her eyes. It took her 3 days to speak. "Thank you," she said one morning, her voice melodic but with a strange, vibrating undertone that made the hairs on my arms stand up. Those were her first words to me, and I nearly dropped my coffee mug. "You can talk," I said, feeling immediately stupid for stating the obvious. "Learn," she replied, gesturing to my television, which had been running nonstop since she arrived. She'd been watching everything: news, documentaries, cartoons, cooking shows, with an intensity that should have been my first clue. One night turned into a week, then a month. I told myself it was temporary, that I was just helping someone in need. She began to help around the apartment, cleaning with a precision that bordered on obsessive. She seemed fascinated by the simplest things: running water, my microwave, even Garbage the cat, whom she would watch for hours as he slept. My coworkers noticed the change in me. "You're different," Lisa from pediatrics said during our lunch break. "You're smiling more." I shrugged it off, but she was right. Having Violet around had changed something. For the first time in years, I wasn't coming home to an empty apartment. There was someone waiting for me, someone who looked at me like I was some kind of miracle. It was during the 3rd month that things started getting weird. I came home early one day to find Violet standing in the middle of the living room, surrounded by floating orbs of light. They hovered around her like tiny suns, casting rainbow patterns across the walls. She was speaking, but not in any language I'd ever heard, a series of clicks and whistles that made my teeth ache. She didn't notice me at first. When she did, the lights vanished instantly, winking out of existence like they had never been there. "Alex," she said, her voice shaking. "I can explain." That night she told me everything. How her ship had crashed in the mountains 6 months ago. How she had wandered, alone and afraid, in a world so different from her own. How her people, the Lyrian, had been observing Earth for centuries, fascinated by humans and our capacity for both cruelty and kindness. "We are not so different," she said, taking my hand. Her skin was cooler than mine, smoother. "But we have so much to learn from each other." I should have been terrified. I should have called someone, the police, the government, anyone. Instead, I found myself nodding, squeezing her hand back. "Show me again," I said. "Those lights." She smiled, and the room filled once more with those incredible, impossible orbs. As they danced around us, I realized something that would change everything. Violet wasn't just an alien seeking shelter. She was an ambassador, and somehow I, an ordinary nurse with nothing special about me, had become humanity's first point of contact with a civilization beyond our stars. What I didn't know then was that we weren't alone. Others of her kind were watching, waiting. And not all of them shared Violet's admiration for humanity. Some saw us as a threat, others as an opportunity. And in my small apartment, with Garbage the cat purring between us, the future of two species had begun to take shape. That night, I couldn't sleep. I sat by my window, watching the stars with new eyes, wondering which one was hers. The universe had suddenly become both vastly larger and incredibly smaller all at once. "They call it the spiral," Violet said, appearing beside me so quietly I almost jumped. "My home." She pointed to a cluster of stars barely visible through the city's light pollution. "It's there, though your telescopes cannot yet see it clearly." "How far?" I asked. "In your measurements, 78 light years." She smiled at my expression. "We have ways of bending space. What you call wormholes." I nodded, pretending I understood even though my mind was reeling. "Why Earth? Out of all the planets you could visit?" Violet's expression changed, became something I couldn't read. "My people have been watching yours for generations. You are unique." "Unique how?" I pressed. She touched my hand, her cool fingers tracing the lines of my palm. "You feel so much. You care so deeply, even for strangers. Even for beings not like you." She looked at Garbage, who was purring in his sleep on the couch. "On my world, we evolved differently. Emotion is difficult for us." That explained a lot about her initially blank expressions, the way she sometimes stared at people laughing or crying on TV with fascination bordering on confusion. "But you're learning," I said. "Yes." Her violet eyes met mine. "From you, especially." The next morning, I called in sick for the first time in 3 years. There were too many questions I needed answers to. Violet was hesitant at first, but as the day wore on, she began to open up more. Her people, the Lyrian, were a spacefaring civilization thousands of years more advanced than humans. They had colonies on 17 planets across 12 star systems. They didn't have governments like we did. They organized themselves into what she called thought collectives, groups bound by shared goals rather than geographic locations. "And which collective do you belong to?" I asked as we shared a pizza, her new favorite Earth food. Something flickered across her face. "I was part of the Observer Collective. We study emerging intelligent species." "What? Us?" I caught the past tense. Violet set down her slice. "There is disagreement among my people about Earth. About humans." A chill ran down my spine. "What kind of disagreement?" "Some believe your species shows great promise. Others—" She hesitated. "Others see only the violence in your history. The damage you've done to your own world. They believe contact would be premature." "And which side are you on?" I asked quietly. She looked at me, and for once I could read her expression perfectly. "Sadness. I was sent to observe and report back. Nothing more." "But your ship crashed." She nodded. "And no one came looking for me." The weight of what she was saying hit me. She was stranded here, abandoned by her own people. Or worse, left behind intentionally. "Violet," I said carefully, "are you in danger?" Her silence was answer enough. That evening, while Violet was in the shower, a human custom she'd grown to love, I noticed her makeshift communicator blinking on the coffee table. It looked like she'd cobbled it together from parts of my old radio and some components I didn't recognize. The small screen displayed symbols I couldn't read, but the rapid flashing seemed urgent. When she emerged, her hair still damp, I pointed to the device. "Someone's trying to reach you." Her eyes widened. She rushed to the communicator, her fingers flying over its surface. The symbols shifted, rearranged, and then displayed what looked like a map. She let out a sound I'd never heard from her before, something between a gasp and a whimper. "What is it?" I asked. "They're coming," she whispered. "A scout ship. It will be here in 3 days." "Your people? Isn't that good news?" She turned to me, real fear in those alien eyes. "Not all who are coming are friends, Alex. The thought collectives have fractured over Earth. Those arriving first." She swallowed hard. "They see humanity as a threat to be contained. Or worse." "Worse?" There are technologies we possess that could make Earth forget we ever existed. That could make you forget me. I felt sick. They would just wipe our memories? Of everything. Some would do far more than that. Violet's voice had gone cold, mechanical. The purifiers believe the safest approach to potentially dangerous species is preemptive action. My heart was pounding now. Are you saying they would harm us? The entire planet? Violet took my hands. Not if we can reach the others first. There are those among my people who would stand with humanity, who believe in alliance, not dominance. How do we contact them? She glanced at her crude communicator. This isn't powerful enough. I need to build something stronger, something that can reach beyond your solar system. Tell me what you need, I said without hesitation. That Violet's eyes met mine, and I saw something new there. I need your help, she said simply. All of humanity's. The next 48 hours were a blur of frantic activity. My apartment had transformed into something between a workshop and a war room. Violet had dismantled my microwave, television, and even my old laptop, using their components to build what she called a resonance beacon. When completed, it would supposedly broadcast a signal that only friendly Lyrian ships could detect. I need more conductive material, she said, not looking up from her work. Her fingers moved with impossible precision, connecting wires thinner than human hair. Copper, preferably. I had already called in sick for the second day, making up some story about food poisoning that my supervisor didn't fully believe. I can't exactly walk into an electronics store and buy industrial quantities of copper wire without raising questions, Violet. She paused, those violet eyes meeting mine. Your species values paper currency above safety, even now. I couldn't argue with that. Let me make a call. 20 minutes later, I was explaining the situation, or a heavily edited version of it, to my friend Raj, an electrical engineering professor at the local university. So you're saying you need high-grade copper wire for a home project? His skepticism was clear even through the phone. It's complicated, I said, but it's important. Life or death important. There must have been something in my voice that convinced him, because he sighed and said, Fine. Come by my lab in an hour. But you owe me dinner for a month. While Violet continued working, I made the trip to the university. Raj met me outside the engineering building, a duffel bag in hand. I don't want to know what you're doing, he said, handing over the bag. Just tell me it's not illegal. I hesitated just long enough for him to groan. Actually, don't tell me anything. Plausible deniability. He squeezed my shoulder. But be careful, Alex. You look different. Like you're carrying the weight of the world. If only he knew to be why the time I returned to my apartment, the sun was setting. 1 day gone. 2 more until the scout ship arrived. Violet worked through the night, the apartment lit only by the glow of her strange tools and the occasional spark from her soldering. I tried to help where I could, following her instructions to hold components or retrieve items, but mostly I watched in awe as she assembled technology centuries beyond human understanding. Will it work? I asked as dawn broke, pushing a cup of coffee toward her. She had developed a fondness for it, claiming it helped her think more like a human, which apparently was useful for the task at hand. If the materials are sufficient, yes. She took a long sip, grimacing slightly at the bitterness. But the signal must be amplified. 1 beacon is not enough. What do you mean? She set down her tools, rubbing her eyes in a gesture so human it startled me. The signal needs to be transmitted from multiple locations simultaneously. 3 points, minimum, forming a triangulation that extends beyond your atmosphere. My heart sank. We can't build 3 of these in time. No. She looked at the half-completed device. But we can build 1 and create simpler relay points for the other 2 locations. And where would these relay points need to be? She walked to my window, pointing west and then east. 1 there in what you call the Rocky Mountains. The other there, near the ocean. I pulled up a map on my phone. That's at least a 6-hour drive in each direction. We don't have time. Violet turned to me, her expression unreadable again. Then we need help. That's how, on the morning of the second day, I found myself explaining to my two closest friends that aliens were real, one was living in my apartment, and hostile forces were on their way to Earth. Lisa from pediatrics stared at me like I'd grown a second head. Raj looked between Violet and me, his expression shifting from disbelief to fascination. "You're serious?" he said finally. "Deadly serious," I replied. "Show them," I said to Violet. She hesitated, then nodded. Raising her hand, she created one of those glowing orbs I'd seen before, but this time it expanded, projecting what looked like a star map onto my living room wall. Points of light moved across it, one red dot approaching a blue one labeled Earth in Lyrian script. Lisa gasped. Raj dropped the coffee mug he was holding. It shattered on the floor, but no one moved to clean it up. "Holy shit," Lisa whispered. "Holy actual shit." "We need your help," I said, meeting each of their eyes. "All of us do, even if they don't know it yet." By noon, we had a plan. Raj would take one of the relay devices to a research station in the mountains where he occasionally worked. Lisa would drive the other to her brother's beach house on the coast. Violet and I would stay with the main beacon, coordinating the simultaneous activation. "This is insane," Lisa said as she packed the small device into her car. "You know that, right?" I nodded. "Thank you for believing me anyway." She hugged me tight. "Just make sure we're still here tomorrow to laugh about how crazy this all was." As their cars pulled away, I felt a knot forming in my stomach. We were betting everything on this working, on 3 humans and 1 stranded alien being able to outwit an advanced civilization with unknown capabilities and unclear intentions. By evening, both Lisa and Raj had reached their destinations and set up the relay devices according to Violet's instructions. We kept in constant contact through a group chat, though cell service in the mountains was spotty at best. "Now what?" I asked Violet as night fell. "Now we wait," she said, making final adjustments to the main beacon. "The scout ship will enter Earth's orbit at dawn. We must activate all 3 points simultaneously when they arrive." I checked my watch. 8 hours until sunrise. 8 hours until everything changed. That's when my phone rang. An unknown number. "Hello," I answered cautiously. "Is this Alex Chin?" a formal male voice asked. "Who's calling?" "This is Agent Daniel Powell, Department of Defense. We've detected unusual electromagnetic activity from your residence. We'd like to ask you a few questions." My blood ran cold. I looked at Violet, who had gone completely still. "I'm not sure what you're talking about," I said, trying to keep my voice steady. "Mr. Chin, we have reason to believe you're harboring a non-terrestrial entity. Vehicles are en route to your location now. I suggest you cooperate fully." The line went dead. Outside, I heard the wail of sirens in the distance. Violet's eyes met mine, wide with fear. "The purifiers," she whispered. "They must have agents already on Earth. They found us." The room seemed to spin around me. "What do we do?" She grabbed my hands. "We have to activate the beacon now, before they get here. It's our only chance." "But Raj and Lisa, they're not ready. We have no choice," Violet insisted, her voice urgent. "If these agents take the beacon, all is lost." The sirens were getting closer. Out the window, I could see flashing lights turning onto my street. "Send the signal," I told her. "Tell them to activate now." As Violet frantically typed into our group chat, I ran to the door and locked it, then started pushing furniture against it. It wouldn't hold them for long, but maybe long enough. "Lisa is ready," Violet called. "Raj isn't responding." The sirens stopped. Car doors slammed outside. Heavy footsteps on the stairs leading to my apartment. "We can't wait," I said, my heart hammering in my chest at a loud knock at the door. "Federal agents. Open up." Violet's hands flew over the beacon, activating sequences I couldn't begin to understand. The orbs of light appeared again, but brighter this time, filling the room with their glow. "Alex Chin," the voice called again. "This is your final warning." The door began to splinter as they forced their way in. Garbage hissed and ran under the bed. "It's not working," Violet said, panic in her voice. The signal's not strong enough with only 2 points. The furniture barricade began to give way. Through the crack in the door, I could see men in black tactical gear, weapons drawn. "What do we need?" I asked desperately. "A power source," she said. "Something stronger than your electricity." The door burst open. Agents poured into the apartment, weapons trained on us. "Step away from the device," one shouted. "Hands where we can see them." I looked at Violet, at the beacon, at the agents surrounding us. In that moment, I made a decision that would change everything. "I know what to do," I whispered to her, and reached for the beacon. Time seemed to slow as I lunged for the beacon. The agents shouted warnings, their weapons trained on us, but I couldn't stop now. My hands closed around the device just as Violet cried out. "Alex, don't." Too late. I pressed the central node, the one she told me specifically not to touch, and felt a jolt of energy surge through my body. The pain was immediate and overwhelming, like being struck by lightning. I heard screaming and realized it was my own voice. The room exploded with light so bright it turned everything white. The agents staggered back, shielding their eyes. Violet reached for me, her face contorted with horror. Then, just as suddenly as it began, the light collapsed inward, focusing into a tight beam that shot upward through my ceiling, punching a perfect circle through the roof and into the night sky. I fell to my knees, gasping. My entire body tingled, and when I looked down at my hands, faint blue lines pulsed beneath my skin, tracing the pattern of my veins. What did I do?" I managed to say. Violet knelt beside me, ignoring the agents who were regrouping, their weapons still raised but their expressions uncertain. "You've bonded with the beacon," she whispered. "It's using your bioelectrical field as a power source." "Is that bad?" Her expression told me everything. It was meant for Lyrian physiology, not human. One of the agents stepped forward, his weapon lowered slightly. "Miss Chen, we need you and your guest to come with us immediately." I blinked in confusion. "Wait, what did you call me?" The agent removed his tactical helmet, and I felt the floor drop out from under me. The face revealed was hauntingly familiar. It was my own. Identical in every detail, except for the cold, calculating look in the eyes. "What the hell?" I breathed as Violet's grip on my arm tightened. "Shifters," she hissed. "The purifiers sent them ahead." The agent, the thing wearing my face, smiled thinly. "Not purifiers. Preservers. And we've been here much longer than you think." The other agents removed their helmets too, revealing faces I recognized. My hospital director, my neighbor from across the hall, even Raj. All perfect duplicates of the real humans. "Where's the real Raj?" I demanded, a sickening realization dawning. "What have you done with him?" "Your friend is unharmed," my doppelganger said calmly. "For now. Though I can't say the same for you, now that you've integrated with that device." He glanced at Violet. "You should have told your pet human what would happen." "I didn't know he would." She stopped abruptly, wincing as if in pain. Her form flickered momentarily, like a glitch in a video. The fake me tilted his head. "The interference is starting. Your beacon is causing quite the disruption in our communication network." "Clever." I looked at Violet, whose form flickered. "And again. What's happening to you?" "The beacon," she gasped. "It's working, but..." She looked down at my hands, where the blue lines were now pulsing brighter. "It's drawing too much from you. Human bodies weren't meant to channel this kind of energy." The doppelganger sighed. "Enough. Take them both." The female appears to be experiencing some kind of quantum instability. Secure her before she phases completely. As two of the agents moved toward us, my phone buzzed in my pocket. Somehow, I managed to pull it out. A message from Lisa, "Signal active. Something's happening at the beach. Lights in the sky." Hope surged through me. "It's working," I told Violet. "Lisa's relay is active." Violet's eyes widened. She grabbed my wrist, her fingers pressing into the glowing blue lines. "Then we need the third point. Without it, the triangulation is incomplete." "But Raj..." "Not Raj," she cut me off, her voice urgent. You've become a conduit for the beacon's energy. If we can get you to the third location, they're not going anywhere. My double snapped, raising his weapon again. Then something unexpected happened. Garbage, my cat, who had been hiding under the bed, streaked across the room and launched himself directly at the doppelganger's face, hissing and clawing furiously. The agent screamed, dropping his weapon as he tried to pry the enraged feline off. Now! Violet shouted, pulling me toward the window that we crashed through glass and screen, landing hard on the fire escape. Pain shot through my body, the blue lines flaring brighter with each heartbeat. Behind us, I could hear shouts and the sounds of pursuit. We need to get to the mountains, I gasped as we clattered down the metal stairs. That's where the third relay point is. Violet looked at me, her form still flickering in and out like a bad TV signal. There's no time. The scout ship will be here in less than an hour. Then what do we do? She pointed up. We don't need to be at the physical location of the third relay. We just need to create a triangle with the energy signature. I followed her gaze to the top of the city's tallest building, its spire illuminated against the night sky. Will that work? It has to. We reached the street and ran. My legs felt leaden, each step requiring more effort than the last. The blue lines beneath my skin had spread, covering my arms and chest now. I could feel the beacon's energy coursing through me, burning me from inside. I don't think I can make it, I panted as we turned a corner, the agent's shouts growing louder behind us. Violet's hand found mine. You can. You must. A police car screeched to a halt beside us, and for a moment I thought we were caught. Then the window rolled down, revealing Lisa's terrified face. Get in, she shouted as we dove into the back seat. As we pulled away, I caught a glimpse of the agents emerging from my building, their faces now transformed into their true forms, elongated, gray-skinned creatures with two large eyes. What the hell are those things? Lisa demanded, her knuckles white on the steering wheel. And why do they look like they're wearing people's faces? Later, Violet said. Drive to the central tower. As fast as you can. Lisa floored it, weaving through late-night traffic with surprising skill. The beach was insane, she said, eyes flicking to the rearview mirror. After I activated the relay, these lights appeared in the sky. Then the ocean started. I don't know how to describe it. Like it was boiling but with light instead of heat. The beacon is creating a dimensional fold, Violet explained. A passage that will allow the Alliance ships to reach Earth before the purifiers. Alliance? I asked weakly, fighting to stay conscious as the energy continued to build within me. Those among my people who believe humanity deserves protection. Who see your potential. She squeezed my hand. Who understand what I've come to understand, that despite your flaws, humans possess something rare in the universe. What's that? Lisa asked, swerving around a delivery truck. Empathy, Violet said simply. The capacity to care for beings unlike yourselves. We screeched to a stop at the base of the central tower. The building loomed above us, its top disappearing into low clouds. Behind us, I could see more vehicles approaching, black SUVs moving at dangerous speeds. They're coming, I warned, stumbling out of the car. Lisa looked from me to the approaching vehicles. What do we do now? Violet helped me toward the building's entrance. We get to the roof. Before it's too late. The security guard at the desk looked up in alarm as we burst through the doors. 3 people, one glowing blue from within, another flickering in and out of visibility. Sir, you can't, he began, reaching for his radio. Please, I said, meeting his eyes. The world depends on it. Something in my face, or perhaps the unearthly blue light emanating from my skin, made him hesitate. Then he nodded once and pressed a button beneath his desk. Service elevator. Back of the lobby. It goes straight to the maintenance level below the roof. As we ran toward the elevator, I heard the doors behind us crash open. The guard shouted in surprise, then went silent with a sound that would haunt my nightmares, a wet, organic noise that no human throat should make. The elevator doors closed just as the first of the agents, now fully revealed in their alien forms, reached us, elongated fingers scraping against the metal as we began our ascent. It won't hold them for long, Violet said, her voice strained. Her flickering had worsened. At times she seemed almost transparent. What's happening to you? Lisa asked, eyes wide with fear. Dimensional feedback, Violet replied. My physical form exists in multiple realities simultaneously now. The beacon is pulling me apart. I leaned against the elevator wall, feeling the energy within me building to unbearable levels. The blue glow had spread to cover my entire body now. And what about me? Violet's eyes met mine, and I saw the answer she couldn't bring herself to say. I'm not going to survive this, am I? I whispered. Before she could answer, the elevator shuddered to a halt. We had reached the top. The maintenance door opened to a narrow staircase leading to the roof. Each step was agony as the energy coursed through me, my skin now glowing so brightly I could see our shadows cast against the walls. Lisa helped me climb while Violet flickered in and out of existence beside us, sometimes solid, sometimes just a voice in the air. Almost there, Lisa gasped, supporting my weight. Just a little further. Below us, the elevator cables screeched. The shapeshifters were climbing up manually. We burst onto the roof. The night sky spread above us, stars barely visible through the city's light pollution. But there, directly overhead, a disturbance was forming, a swirling disk of clouds illuminated from within by flashes of light. The scout ship, Violet said, her voice coming from everywhere and nowhere as she phased in and out. They're beginning their descent. I staggered to the center of the roof, my legs barely able to support me. The blue HFY had consumed me entirely now. I felt like a walking lightning rod, every nerve ending screaming in protest. What do? I called to Violet. She materialized briefly beside me, her hand passing through mine when she tried to touch me. Focus the energy upward. Think of it like a spotlight, directing all the power toward the sky. I closed my eyes, concentrating on the energy within me, imagining it collecting, concentrating, then shooting skyward like a beacon. The pain intensified until I could no longer hold back a scream. My back arched, arms spread wide as a column of blue light erupted from my chest, piercing the clouds above. In that moment, I saw everything. The energy had somehow connected me to the other beacons, Lisa's on the beach, and the third point, which wasn't where we thought. It wasn't at Raj's mountain location at all. It was moving, traveling at incredible speed across the Atlantic Ocean. A fourth consciousness touched mine through the energy web. Hello, Alex, a familiar voice echoed in my mind. Sorry I'm late. Raj. I gasped aloud. Not exactly, the voice replied. Though we've borrowed his form for convenience. Understanding hit me like a physical blow. You're one of them. A shapeshifter. Yes and no, the voice said. I am Lyrian, but not a preserver. I am from the faction your friend Violet calls the Alliance. Across the energy web, I could feel this being activating the third beacon, the true third point of the triangle. Not in the mountains, but on a ship somewhere over the ocean. The triangulation was complete. The sky above tore open like fabric being ripped apart. Through the gap, I saw stars, different constellations than Earth's, and sleek, silver ships pouring through. Dozens, then hundreds of them, far more than I had expected. The rooftop door burst open. The shapeshifters emerged, their elongated bodies moving with unnatural grace. My doppelganger led them, his face now halfway transformed, features stretching and morphing. You're too late, he hissed, voice no longer human. The purifiers are already here. As if in response, the swirling clouds parted to reveal a massive black ship, its surface rippling like oil on water. It descended slowly, dwarfing the Silver Alliance vessels. Dark energy crackled around it, pushing back against the blue light emanating from me. That's not a scout ship, Violet said, briefly materializing beside me, her form more stable now that the triangle was complete. That's a purifier dreadnought. They lied to us, the lead shapeshifter snarled, fury distorting his features further. The preservers were promised Earth would be quarantined, not cleansed. He turned to us, and in that moment, I saw genuine fear in those alien eyes. Lisa stepped forward. Wait, I thought you were with them? We've been on Earth for centuries, he replied. This is our home now too. A new voice spoke, this one booming from the black ship above, so loud it vibrated through my bones. All vessels in Earth orbit will stand down. This planet has been designated for purification. Resistance will result in immediate destruction. From the dreadnought, a pulsing red beam began to form, aimed directly at the city below. I felt the energy within me faltering, my strength nearly gone. I can't hold the connection much longer, I gasped. The beacon is killing me. Violet's form stabilized completely beside me, the dimensional feedback suddenly gone. She looked solid, real, more present than I had ever seen her. No, she said, her voice clear and strong. It won't. She placed her hands on my chest, directly over my heart, where the blue energy was brightest. I understand now. This was always the plan. What plan? I managed to ask, the words almost impossible to form through the pain. Your empathy, she said softly. Your willingness to help a stranger, to risk everything for someone not of your kind. It's the very thing that makes humanity worth saving. Her eyes met mine. And it's what the beacon was designed to measure. With a swift motion, she pressed her palms against my chest, pushing inward. Instead of meeting resistance, her hands sank into me, merging with the blue energy. I felt a strange sensation, not pain, but a profound connection, as if two pieces of a puzzle were finally joining. What are you doing? Lisa cried. What I was sent here to do, Violet replied, her body now halfway merged with mine, blue light enveloping us both. The crash was no accident, Alex. I was never abandoned. I was waiting for you. Understanding dawned on me. The test, she nodded, smiling. You passed. Humanity passed. The shapeshifters backed away as Violet and I merged completely. The energy that had been killing me stabilized, no longer burning but flowing naturally through my veins. Through our shared consciousness, I could feel the true beacon activating, not the device we had built, but something far more ancient and powerful that had been dormant within Violet all along. Above us, the Purifier Dreadnought's weapon reached full charge, the red beam aimed directly at the city. But before it could fire, our combined blue light shot upward with impossible force, striking the massive ship's center. The black hull cracked like glass, light pouring from the fissures. A new voice, our voice, spoke, resonating not through air but directly into the minds of every being present, human and alien alike. Earth is under the protection of the Lyrian Collective. By ancient law and the right of first contact, we claim stewardship of this world and its people. The Silver Alliance ships moved into formation around the damaged dreadnought. From our elevated perspective, I could see other purifier vessels suddenly retreating, folding back through the tear in space from which they had emerged. The lead shapeshifter dropped to one knee, followed by the others. The joining, he whispered with reverence. It's really true. Lisa stood frozen, her eyes wide with awe. Alex? Violet? What's happening? I found I could still speak as myself, even as part of something greater. It's okay, Lisa. We're okay. Slowly, the blue light began to recede. I could feel Violet's consciousness separating from mine, though not completely. A part of her would always remain with me now, just as a part of me was now with her. As our merged forms separated, I felt the energy distribute itself more evenly, no longer threatening to burn me alive from within. That we stood facing each other on the rooftop, both of us transformed. Violet looked more human now, the otherworldly quality of her features softened, and I caught my reflection in a glass panel of the roof door. My eyes now held the same iridescent violet glow as hers. What have we become? I asked softly. The first, she replied. The first true joining of human and Lyrian. The beginning of something new. From the sky, a small silver ship detached from the fleet and descended toward the rooftop. The Alliance had arrived in person. As the ship landed, the door slid open to reveal a figure I recognized immediately, though I had never seen him before. He had Raj's general build, but his features were clearly alien, if the same violet eyes as Violet. Ambassador, he said, bowing slightly to Violet. The collective sends its congratulations. Your mission was a success. Ambassador? Lisa repeated, looking at Violet in shock. Violet smiled, taking my hand. I told you I was from the Observer Collective. I just didn't mention I was its leader. The Lyrian who had taken Raj's form turned to me. And the true Raj is safe, as promised. As are all humans who were borrowed by either faction. They will be returned with no memory of what happened. And the purifiers? I asked. Will they be back? No, Violet said firmly. The joining has activated ancient protocols that even they must respect. Earth is now officially under Lyrian protection, and more importantly, recognized as a partner species, not a subject one. The lead shapeshifter stepped forward cautiously. And what of us? We who have made this world our home. Violet looked at them thoughtfully. That will be for humans to decide. This is their world, after all. But I imagine there is room for many kinds of people on this planet. As dawn broke over the city, painting the sky in pinks and golds, I felt a strange peace settle over me. The blue energy still coursed through my veins, but it no longer hurt. Instead, it felt like a promise of something new, something unprecedented in the history of either of our species. So what happens now? Lisa asked, looking between us and the ships still hovering overhead, invisible to everyone else in the city below. I looked at Violet, who smiled back at me, her violet eyes meeting my newly transformed ones. Now, she said, we introduce two worlds to each other. Properly this time. I squeezed her hand, feeling the echo of our joined consciousness still resonating between us. And I thought taking in a homeless alien was going to be the strangest thing I did this week. As the sun rose fully over the horizon, I couldn't help but wonder how I would explain to my supervisor why I couldn't come in for my shift today. After all, I had a rather important new job as humanity's first ambassador to the stars. Garbage the cat was going to be insufferably smug about all this. I just knew it. The next few weeks passed in a blur of secret meetings, diplomatic negotiations, and attempts to explain my new eye color to coworkers at the hospital. The official story was rare genetic condition, though my supervisor kept giving me suspicious looks whenever the lights caught my irises just right and they seemed to glow. The world continued on, blissfully unaware of how close it had come to annihilation, or of the silent guardians now orbiting above. The Alliance had established a cloaked station in Earth's orbit, invisible to human technology. Only a select few, myself, Lisa, the real Raj, who was indeed found safe but very confused at his mountain research station, and a handful of carefully chosen government representatives, knew the truth. It's better this way, Violet explained as we walked through a park near my apartment one crisp autumn evening. Humanity isn't ready for full disclosure yet. The cultural shock would be too destabilizing. She looked different now, still recognizably herself, but with subtle changes that made her appear more human. The Alliance had provided her with technology that adjusted her physical form to blend in better. Only her violet eyes, matching mine, hinted at her true nature. So we just keep it secret? I asked, watching a group of children playing on a nearby playground. Pretend none of this happened? She smiled, a gesture that came more naturally to her now. For now. But not forever. The joining changed things, Alex. Not just for us, but for both our species. The joining. Even weeks later, I was still discovering its effects. The blue energy remained within me, though muted now, only visible when I was emotional or exerting the strange new abilities I was slowly learning to control. I could sense things I couldn't before, electromagnetic fields, the thoughts of those closest to me, particularly Violet's, and occasionally, glimpses of possible futures. The shapeshifters have been surprisingly helpful, I noted, thinking of the former preservers who had chosen to remain on Earth. Unlike the purifiers, they had developed a genuine attachment to humanity and our world over their centuries here. Now they served as intermediaries, helping establish communications protocols between human representatives and the Alliance. They understand what's at stake, Violet replied. The universe is changing. Old powers are fading, new alliances forming. Earth has become more important than you realize. We stopped at a bench overlooking a small pond. In the fading light, ducks glided across the still water, leaving ripples in their wake. I got another message from the collective today, Violet said after a moment of comfortable silence. They want us to travel to the hub. I raised an eyebrow. The hub? The center of the Lyrian territories, where the Council of Collectives meets. She turned to face me, her expression serious. They want to formalize Earth's protected status, and they want you there, the first human to address the Council. I felt a flutter of anxiety mixed with excitement. When? 3 weeks from now. The Alliance vessel can make the journey in just under 2 Earth days. I thought about my apartment, my job, my cat. All the ordinary things that had defined my life just months ago. What should I tell people? I can't exactly request vacation time to go speak to an alien council. Violet's lips twitched with amusement. Medical conference? Family emergency? The human tradition of calling in sick seems quite versatile. I laughed, feeling some of the tension ease. Lisa would watch garbage for me. She's been begging to visit the Alliance station anyway. She has potential, Violet agreed. The collective has noted her adaptability. Perhaps in time, she too might, one human-alien hybrid at a time, I interrupted with a smile. Let me get used to this first. As if in response, the energy within me pulsed, sending a faint blue glow beneath my skin. Dee learned to control it better, but strong emotions still triggered visible manifestations. You're doing remarkably well, Violet said softly, placing her hand over mine. Most species would struggle far more with the changes you're experiencing. Most species haven't had as much sci-fi training as humans, I joked. We've been imagining this stuff for centuries. The sun had set completely now, stars beginning to appear overhead. I looked up, seeing them differently than I once had. Not just distant points of light, but places, worlds filled with life, civilizations with histories as rich and complex as Earth's. Do you ever regret it? I asked suddenly. Choosing me? Starting the joining? Violet's eyes met mine, Violet meeting Violet. Never. Though I didn't expect it to happen quite so dramatically. Nothing like an alien invasion to speed up a relationship. She laughed, the sound still slightly musical in a way no human laugh could be. The collective had been watching humanity for generations, looking for the right person. Someone with the capacity for true empathy across species boundaries. When I found you, when you offered shelter to a stranger who wasn't even of your world, I knew. Knew what? That humanity was ready. That despite all your flaws, your wars, your struggles, there was something in your species worth preserving. Worth partnering with. I thought about that night, months ago now, when I'd spotted a huddled figure beneath an overpass. How close I'd come to walking past. How that simple decision, to stop, to help, had altered not just my life but potentially the course of human history. So what happens next? I asked, looking back to the stars. Violet followed my gaze upward. We build bridges. Between worlds, between species. We learn from each other. And when the time is right, when humanity is ready, we reveal the truth, that you are not alone in the universe. That you never were. I felt a sense of peace settle over me, along with the weight of responsibility. Whatever came next, diplomatic missions to distant worlds, helping humanity prepare for its new role in the galactic community, learning to fully control my transformed biology, I knew my life had found a purpose greater than I could have imagined. Just think, I said, smiling at the woman who had changed everything, all this because I gave shelter to a homeless alien. Violet squeezed my hand, our energies resonating together in perfect harmony. Sometimes the smallest kindnesses have the greatest consequences. Above us, invisible to ordinary human eyes but clear to our transformed vision, the Alliance ships kept their silent vigil, guardians of a world that stood at the threshold of a new era, one where humanity would take its first steps into a much larger universe. And it all began with a simple act of compassion on a rainy night.